Hello, everyone. From one of the big buzzwords to the other, from AI to blockchain. What I want to talk about today is what does this mean for business? A little bit about myself and my company. We've been around since the beginnings of blockchain being used as a business. We were the first to market with what's called a permissionable blockchain, which kickstarted a lot of use within industries, sort of across the board. First to market this technology as an enabler for legal tech, which is what we do now. In general, when we think about innovations, particularly technological innovations, we have to think about them really in the context of what has come before and why they exist. So let's give a thought to where we are with the overall idea that we're going to digitize our business systems. This has been ongoing since maybe the 60s, maybe the 70s, maybe the 80s, maybe the 90s, depending your business, depending the specifics of what you do and your industry. But in general, we see that accounting is very much digitized. Accounts payable, digitized. Accounts receivable, digitized. Human resources, mostly digitized. Candidate sourcing, digitized. Employee management, digitized. Inventory management, mostly digitized. Warehouse management, digitized. This would have been more effective if the clicker would have gone faster. Code management, digitized. Vendor management, mostly digitized. And there we go. And legal contracting is not really digitized for the most part. Now, there's more business systems. Obviously, your specific business may have slightly different business systems. But for the most part, if we look across the spectrum of things that have digital platforms that we can move this business function onto, then what we see is that for the most part, the core functions of our business, we have a platform we can do them on. But what we don't have a platform that we can move much of what we do onto, and where we are only partially digitized in some of these, is around things that happen at the interface of our business. In other words, where our business has to interface with counterparties, other businesses, our suppliers, etc., those are the parts of our business which, for the most part, are only partially or are not at all digitized. And this is where blockchains can be brought to bear. So what are blockchains? Blockchains are Byzantine fault-tolerant event logs that operate seamlessly across company firewalls. You can go into a whole range of different levels of complexity, but at its core, what a blockchain is it's a log of events that are synchronized across computers that we assume are ran by different companies. So it's a distributed management system, data management system. It's not really beneficial to be ran by one company because the way that blockchains operate, it requires a whole lot of overhead, a whole lot of complexity for no reason outside the fact that that complexity is there to protect us when multiple companies are all reading and writing to a common data set. They're Byzantine fault tolerant. And what this means is that no one entity or no one computer that's operating this distributed data set can take over and can say for a very long time what true is. In other words, what is the state of this data? Blockchains are event logs, as I said. They are essentially a sequence of transactions that modify data. They are not really built to be queryable databases in the sense of how we would traditionally think about databases. And they are authenticated systems that use elliptical curve cryptography, particularly digital signing algorithms. They are not privacy machines, despite the fact that they use cryptography quite heavily. So how are we using these things in the context of business? There are really three paradigms that are being explored across the ecosystem. The first is what I call tokenizing trade. This seeks to take a digital asset or a physical asset and tokenize it. In other words, have a one-to-one relationship between an asset, either in the real world or in the digital world, and a particular token. And then enable trading of that thing. This is meant to really reduce frictions in scenarios, particularly where you have asset classes that are, for whatever reason, with existing financial infrastructure, difficult to trade. And the example here is typically around financial assets. Secondly, we have tag and track. This takes a digital or physical good, and it tracks it as that digital or physical good flows through a particular supply chain so that we know where it came from and who touched it along the pathway to where it is now. We see these across supply chains. Then finally, we have shared process use cases. These use cases are what my company focuses on, and we see it most evidently in insurance and legal domains. And the idea with shared processes is to be able to establish a business process that needs to flow in an authenticated manner across company firewalls and leverage blockchain technology to prove the authenticity of a particular process or the compliance of a particular process with some preconceived idea of what it should be. There are barriers, as with any new technology, to scale. The key ones are regulatory. We see in many use cases of this technology, it impacts on fintech and/or financial assets, and regulators very much are concerned about what happens in a lower friction world where the previous reins of regulatory systems are taken off in many ways. We see market challenges, we see sales challenges, we see technical challenges. But more importantly, if you or your business are seeking to explore this technology, what are the three key questions that you should ask yourself? And these are the questions really that I would ask today in 2019. These are not the questions I would have asked in 2015 or 16 or 17 or 18. But really, we've evolved beyond the idea of how does this thing work? What do these things do for me, these blockchains? Really, the key questions to ask are, can I share this data? Will I share this data? And do I benefit more from sharing this data or not? Because at the end of the day, if you cannot or will not share some data on a particular blockchain, then you have no reason whatsoever to be using a blockchain, because blockchains are really fundamentally about sharing data to have cross-company optimization. So as I started the talk, will blockchain be the powerhouse of your business? Well, it depends on what your business is. But realistically, it'll just be a tool to further digitize business systems. Thank you very much.